Hello, Joelle and Litz here, and today I'm going to make something that was a request on one of my last posts because we have a theme going right now of Pennsylvania Dutch cooking. So today we're going to make homemade pot pie, and I decided not to take any shortcuts. So this is the whole thing. I have a chicken in the oven cooking, and right now I am cutting carrots and celery and potatoes. You may have seen me cut these before, but if it's your first time tuning in, I saved a couple to show you how it's done. I just got baby carrots and I'm cutting those into just like half-inch pieces. That's how I like them. And you can use as many or as few carrots as you like or don't like, but I happen to love carrots, so I put a lot in. And I use 2 potatoes, and you want to cut these into cubes. And again, I use about a ½ inch cube, and we'll just do this one up real quick here. Just like that. I make long strips and then cut across to make my ½ inch squares, and continue that until my potato is all. I happen to use the shells and all. I learned somewhere along the way that the shells have the most protein or nutrition or vitamins, something of that nature. So I don't cut off the shells. I actually like the shells. And since people started selling potato skins in stores, I guess it's kind of a new old thing to eat the shells as well. And then of course we have celery. Now, a lot of people will take off one piece at a time, but what I do is take the whole, I get celery hearts, I just like celery hearts better. I take the whole stalk and just cut right through it, like that. And then we have our celery. Now what I'm going to do is, I have my mat here. I'm going to take it to the corners like this and carry it to my pot, and then we'll put it in with the chicken, okay? So here's my oven. And we're going to open that, and the chicken is in here. I'm going to pull that out and just move it over here onto the stove. Here are my potatoes and carrots and celery. We're going to drop those in over and around the chicken, like that, and put them down. I've already had the chicken cooking about ½ an hour. And then I don't want the potatoes to get overcooked and get mushy. The other thing that I like to do that a lot of people may not do, but this is how I do it, in my soups, in my pot pies, whatever I make, I always put 2 bouillon cubes. Since this is a chicken, these are chicken bouillon cubes. It just gives an extra bit of flavor and makes everything taste so good. So let's put the lid back on and put this back in the oven, which by the way is at 350. And a chicken I usually bake about an hour, so it's going to bake with the celery, carrots, and potatoes for the last ½ hour. While everything is baking with the chicken, I thought what I would do is start the dough. So I thought also flour sure makes a mess. So I am going to put on an apron today, and we'll try and keep a little bit clean, because I have people stopping to pick up masks. We're in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and as a county commissioner, a project that I took on was to coordinate the sewing and distribution of masks. We have a team of about 36 women working together right now. About 25 of those are seamstresses, and we have at least 3 people cutting. We have people donating material, elastic, thread. They're just amazing women, and they are all doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. So we have a couple of people picking up this morning, one that is sewing for us. I give a kit with the material and elastic already cut, and she can sit down and get right to sewing. And then we have the Ebenezer Fire Company stopping, and they're getting 15 for their active members. So if the doorbell rings, you'll hear it, and we'll just stop and answer the door. But in the interim, we're going to keep making our pot pie. So I like a nice big bowl to work with, and you might want to take off your jewelry because it can get really messy in there. I pre-measured 3 cups of flour. And you want to put in 2 eggs, 2 large eggs. And you want to add 3/4 of a cup of water. Again, I already got this ready, so we'll put that in. And then it's a matter of mixing it around, and you just use your hands. Now, I washed my hands before I started, so we want to get this mixed up and make a nice dough out of it. And it's going to have a little bit of a yellow color because of the egg yolks in it. And again, this is Pennsylvania Dutch cooking, folks. And your hands get good and gooey. You can watch what's going on here. We're just tossing it around using the liquid from the egg and the water that we put in to get this to come together, and squeeze it around a little bit so it does stick together real good. I might even use, I'm going to stand up, excuse me, put this all together and try to start getting it to go into a ball. Knead a little bit. Ah, that's the key. There you go, kneading it. Get more flour on the outside so it doesn't keep sticking to your hands. Oh, of course, there goes our give me 1 second here. The doorbell just rang. We'll see who it is. I'll be right. And Lee Spencer's here from the Ebenezer Fire Company, so let's go get him his masks. Okay, what I'm going to do is lay these here and get you to come on this side to pick them up. Okay, if you can hold those up, then we'll get a nice picture with the fire truck in the background. Perfect.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm going to wear mine right away, but we did get some from our township, and we have them in a brown paper bag in our lockers. But I'm going to wear one of these first.
Okay. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stay healthy.
Yes, I'm trying.
And your husband.
Okay. Okay, back to the pot pie. I have my hand sanitizer. After delivering those masks, wasn't that exciting that 2 people came? Sharon dropped some off, and I was totally out. So the fire company found they needed a couple of more, so we were able to fill that order. Now, right before the doorbell rang, I was able to knead my dough so that it made a nice wad, and just going to knead it a little bit more out. And if a little bit of flour falls on that mat, that's okay, because that keeps the dough from sticking. And we're going to put it down and press it down a little bit and flip it over. Get some of that flour in the center. Okay, and then you need a rolling pin. And here is my rolling pin. I'm going to roll back and forth this way first. Then pick it up and flip it the other way. I'm probably going to end up trying to square it off here, or rectangle it off, I guess, because that's how the shape of my mat. And also, pot pie dough is usually in squares, so this actually works out well that I have a rectangular mat to work on to try and get it to come out to a square. Then I have like a pattern or a form to follow. Now, the thickness that you want to make it, I guess, is really up to you. Some people like it a little thinner, and some people like it a little thicker. Mine, right now, I'm going to estimate is about, I don't know, 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick, somewhere in that vicinity. But we're just going to take our knife and start making about 2-inch squares by cutting that down one way, and then going back the other. And of course, if you have a large family, you may want to double the recipe, but it's just me and my husband, so this is going to be a good meal or two probably. So here's what it looks like. I have everything cut into squares. I'm going to pull the chicken out of the pot and set it on a platter to cool while we start boiling the noodles. So let's get to it. Okay, it's time to get the chicken out of the oven. So I have my hot pads and we'll see what happens. Here we go. And we're going to set it on a lit burner so the water keeps boiling that's in there, because I put water in the pot. I don't know that I mentioned that before. And here's our chicken so it can cool down. So as that's cooking, if you feel you need a little more water, you can add a little more water. But you have your carrots, your celery, your potatoes, your bouillon cubes in there. And we do want to add perhaps two more things. One is a tablespoon of butter or margarine so that the dough doesn't stick together so much. And then the other is essentially it's about a teaspoon of salt. And you can add that if you want. My dough over, which is cut into 2-inch squares. And what you have to do is drop one piece in at a time to cook. So you want to have a wooden spoon to move it around so that nothing sticks to it. That was a little corner. And if it gets hot water on all sides, almost like spaghetti, it shouldn't stick together. Giblets in there, the heart, the liver, the gizzard. In Pennsylvania, Dutch country, we also eat the giblets. Those noodles are cooking, we're going to take the meat off the chicken, and you can use your fingers if it's cool enough, and if not, you can just cut some off with a knife and pull it off with a fork, however, in chunks. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I like to pull the skin aside. A little bit of the juice from the skin did get in the broth, of course. I think the pot pie's done. What I did was add 4 cups of water because it wasn't quite deep enough with liquid to cook that dough. And in so doing, what happens is your pot pie starts to float to the top a little bit at the edges, and that's a good indication that it's done. And then of course there's always taste testing. But let's see how it looks first of all. Woo. Looking good. And now to get it out to serve it, I have this old ladle of sorts. It's made out of, it almost looks like chicken wire, but it's kind of a cool old utensil that I have around. So I'm going to use that, and that'll drain the broth back. Now if you like the broth, you can have that, but normally pot pie is pot pie, and you don't want all that broth with it. And you make sure you get chicken and potatoes and carrots and vegetables right with it. And you make a plate of pot pie, and this is how it's going to look when you serve it. Doesn't it look yummy?